Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 1 hour. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh raises serious concerns over Pakistan's push to rebuild its terror infrastructure, urges the IMF to reconsider its aid to Pakistan. A United Nations report dubs India a bright spot in the world economy as the global outlook remains subdued amid rising trade tensions. Russian and Ukrainian officials hold first peace talks in over 3 years in Istanbul. Iran and European powers hold nuclear talks as US President Donald Trump presses Tehran to quickly decide. And Lionel Messi is set to return to Argentina's squad for their World Cup qualifiers against Chile and Colombia next month. Well, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited the forward Bhuj Air Base on Friday in the western state of Gujarat, which shares its boundary with Pakistan. While addressing military personnel at the base, the minister called upon the International Monetary Fund to reconsider its $1 billion USD assistance to Islamabad, suggesting it could be used for funding terrorism. He also clearly stated that India's ongoing phase named Operation Sindoor in its fight against terrorism coming across the border is far from over. Take a look.
India's Operation Sindoor brought Pakistan to its knees. The guns may have fallen silent now after Pakistan begged India for mercy. But India is still gunning for Pakistan for sponsoring terrorism and supporting perpetrators of attacks such as the one in Pahalgam last month. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh fired the latest salvo on Friday while addressing the nation's air warriors at Gujarat's Bhuj Air Force Station, and the International Monetary Fund also fell within the blast radius.
मैं मानता हूं कि आज के समय में पाकिस्तान को किसी भी तरह की आर्थिक सहायता टेरर फंडिंग से कम नहीं है। भारत यही चाहेगा कि आईएमएफ पाकिस्तान को अपनी $1 बिलियन की असिस्टेंस पर वह पुनर्विचार करे और आगे भी किसी भी तरह की सहायता देने से आईएमएफ परहेज करे। भारत नहीं चाहता जो फंडिंग हम आईएमएफ को करते हैं वह डायरेक्ट या इनडायरेक्ट किसी भी तरीके से पाकिस्तान या किसी भी देश में टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बनाने में वह इस्तेमाल की जाए।
The minister further said that India's fight against terrorism is now part of national defense doctrine. It will root out this hybrid and proxy warfare, adding that Operation Sindoor is far from over and there could be more action in store.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है। जो कुछ भी हुआ है वह सिर्फ एक ट्रेलर मात्र था। अब जब भी सही समय आएगा तो हम पूरी पिक्चर भी दुनिया को दिखाएंगे। वर्तमान सीज फायर में हमने पाकिस्तान को बिहेवियर के आधार पर अभी प्रोबेशन पर रखा हुआ है। यदि उसका बिहेवियर सुधरता है तब तो ठीक, और यदि बिहेवियर में फिर से गड़बड़ी आती है तो उसको कड़े से कड़ा दंड दिया जाएगा।
The defense minister also mentioned how the operation became a showcase for India's indigenously made weapons like artillery, radars, missiles, drones and counter drones.
आर्टिलरी सिस्टम्स, राडार सिस्टम्स, मिसाइल शील्ड्स, ड्रोन्स और काउंटर ड्रोन्स जैसे साजो सामान आज हम भारत में ही मैन्युफैक्चर कर रहे हैं। हम इंपोर्टर से एक्सपोर्टर बन रहे हैं और यह केवल शुरुआत भी है।
While the minister paid homage to those who lost their lives in the Pahalgam terror attack, he left no stone unturned in praising the nation's armed forces for their valor, the people for their unity and understanding of the fight against terrorism. He also expressed confidence that India will be successful in completely eradicating terrorism from the region. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to further expose Pakistan's false propaganda to the world, India will send delegations on foreign tours from the 22nd of this month. Each delegation will have around 5 to 6 members of parliament. Senior MPs will be leading these delegations. And India has welcomed the Afghan regime's rejection of attempts to create distrust between the two countries during External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's first interaction with Acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi. Following his first ever conversation with his Afghan current counterpart, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar wrote on social media, and I quote, "Good conversation with the Acting Afghan Foreign Minister Mavlavi Amir Khan Muttaqi. Deeply appreciate his condemnation of the Pahalgam terrorist attack. Welcome his firm rejection of recent attempts to create distrust between India and Afghanistan through false and baseless reports. Underlined our traditional friendship with the Afghan people and continuing support for their developmental needs. Discussed ways and means of taking cooperation forward." Unquote. Well, this is also the first political level contact and conversation since the Taliban captured power in Kabul in August 2021. In January this year, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri met Muttaqi in Dubai. Now, there are more details which have been emerging from Pakistan following Operation Sindoor, launched by India in POJK, that's Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as well as within mainland Pakistan. One such report has emerged from Pakistan itself, which exposes or further exposes its government's close ties with the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a terrorist group. A report by Pakistani channel Mustaqbil, The Question of Future, shows the damaged building of Markaz-e-Taiba, the headquarters of the LAT, inside a government administrative complex in Breedkane in Pakistan's Punjab province. India had launched Operation Sindoor following terror attack in Pahalgam in the Union Territory of J&K, and during this operation, terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied J&K had been hit from where terrorist attacks against India had been planned and directed. Altogether, 9 such sites were targeted. And India's Press Information Bureau on Friday debunked claims that External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had said that India informed Pakistan ahead of Operation Sindoor. In a post on social media platform X, the fact-check unit of the PIB said that the External Affairs Minister had not made any such statement and he was in fact being misquoted. The fact-check unit said that the social media post falsely implies from External Affairs Minister's statement that India informed Pakistan before the start of Operation Sindoor. Also, the Press Information Bureau's fact-check unit has dismissed a social media claim featuring a fabricated front page of the UK-based newspaper, The Daily Telegraph. The PIB clarified that the claim is entirely false, confirming that the image is AI-generated and that The Daily Telegraph has never published such a story. And this claim was amplified by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar during his speech to the Senate on the 15th of this month by endorsing a fabricated image and headline, thereby giving official credibility to deliberate digital misinformation. Now, the spirit of patriotism continues to swell across the nation following Operation Sindoor. From the northeast to central India, citizens have been coming together under the Tiranga Yatra to salute the valor of India's armed forces and the success of Operation Sindoor. Tiranga Yatra will run till the 23rd of May. Here's a report on the rising nationwide fervor.
The tricolour soared high across the country as people turned out in large numbers for the Tiranga Yatra, a tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of India's armed forces, especially in the light of the recently concluded and successful Operation Sindoor. In Assam's Dibrugarh, Union Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Sarbananda Sonowal, led a spirited march from Chowki Dhingi to the ASTC bus stand. The rally, joined by dignitaries and locals alike, was a powerful show of national pride.
आतंकवादी के खिलाफ हमने जो लड़ाई लड़ी, इस लड़ाई में प्रचंड जीत हुई। तो इसलिए आज तिरंगा यात्रा हम इसको सफल बनाने के लिए, मनाने के लिए सभी कार्यकर्ता निष्ठापूर्वक जुड़े हुए हैं।
In Jharkhand's Giridih, the heat did little to deter the enthusiastic residents who turned out in large numbers to honor the Indian Army. Union Minister for Women and Child Development Annapurna Devi joined the yatra as people walked shoulder to shoulder with the tricolour in hand.
हमारे देश की सेना को हम सब नमन करते हैं कि आज भारत की सेना ने जो एकजुटता के साथ आतंकवादियों को खत्म करने का जो उन्होंने खत्म किया है, आज आतंकवादियों पर जो प्रहार हुआ है, पाकिस्तान पर हमला हुआ है, निश्चित रूप से देश के लोग सेनाओं को नमन करते हैं.
In Mizoram, twin rallies were held in Siaya and Kamalanagar. In Siaya, citizens walked with the tricolour, voicing their unwavering support for the armed forces. Meanwhile, in Kamalanagar, the BJP unit of the Chakma Autonomous District Council took out a similar yatra, culminating in a message of peace and patriotism. In Tripura's Belonia, the second Tiranga Yatra was led by Union Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, L. Murugan. The event reflected the deep respect for the armed forces' dedication and bravery.
Pakistan has to be already हमने डिस्ट्रॉय किया पाकिस्तान का टेररिस्ट कैंप्स के लिए. ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने बिग विक्ट्री दिया. वो हमारा जीरो टॉलरेंस अगेंस्ट टेररिज्म.
And in Maharashtra's Kamathi, Nagpur, a grand yatra was organized beginning with floral tributes to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. The rally saw participation from retired soldiers and citizens alike. The event concluded with homage to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and replicas of Indian weapons on display captivated the public. From every corner of the country, the message was clear: unity, pride and gratitude for the guardians of our nation. The Tiranga Yatra continues to inspire, bringing the nation together in honor of its true heroes. With bureau inputs, Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
And the day also saw President Draupadi Murmu conferring the Gyanpith Award upon Sanskrit scholar Sri Ram Bhadracharya and poet Gulzar, honouring literary legends for their remarkable contributions to Indian literature. Gulzar was not able to attend the ceremony due to health issues. Gulzar is considered to be one of the finest Urdu poets of his generation and is a top director and writer of Hindi cinema. Ram Bhadracharya is a renowned Hindi spiritual leader, educator and writer of more than 240 books and texts, including 4 epics. This year's selection of Gulzar and Jagat Guru Ram Bhadracharya for their contributions to Urdu and Sanskrit literature. With a legacy spanning over 5 decades, the award has celebrated the works of authors across various Indian languages, reflecting the country's rich linguistic and cultural tapestry. And here's wishing that Gulzar returns to the pink of health as well. Still to come on DD India Newshour. Chad's former Prime Minister and opposition leader, Success Masra, abducted by security forces from his residence. Swedish police release a mass shooting footage.
I'm on a quest to explore the history of Goa. A land steeped in diverse and intersecting cultures and traditions.
I think this is one of my favorite pieces of art in the city.
Here, influences from multiple faiths coalesce in beautiful ways. From religious sites to charming villages and vibrant streets. Watch Postcards from Goa on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Iran has held key talks in Istanbul with top diplomats from Britain, France and Germany, focusing on reviving nuclear negotiations with the United States. Amid ongoing tensions, US and European officials also met separately to discuss the Iranian issue in Istanbul. The meetings, held with diplomatic discretion, came amid renewed efforts by Oman to mediate between Tehran and Washington as US President Donald Trump mounted further pressure on Iran to get a deal done. DD India's Syed Afzarul Hassan has more.
Iran held talks in Turkey's Istanbul with three leading European powers, Britain, France and Germany, on Friday and discussed its nuclear negotiation with Washington. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazim Gharibabadi, who attended the talks in Turkey's city, said in a post on X, Dr. Takht Ravanchi and I hosted the political leaders of the three European countries in Istanbul. We exchanged views and discussed the latest status of the indirect nuclear talks and the lifting of sanctions. Iran and the three European countries are determined to maintain and optimally use diplomacy. If necessary, we will meet again to continue the talks. In Istanbul, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio met the national security advisors of the United Kingdom, France and Germany and discussed Iran's nuclear talks. On the other hand, in Abu Dhabi, US President Donald Trump said his administration had handed over Iran a proposal for a new agreement after 4 rounds of negotiation in recent weeks. According to an American news channel, US President Donald Trump said that Iran wants trade with the United States. The Oman-mediated Iran-US talks were the highest-level contact between the two foes since Washington abandoned the nuclear accord in 2015. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi had earlier denied a report about a draft agreement, saying that Iran have not been given anything. China, who is one of the closest allies of Iran, said ahead of talks that it remained committed to promoting a political and diplomatic settlement of the Iran issue. Speaking on a visit to Qatar on Thursday, Trump said the United States was getting close to a deal with Iran that would avert military action.
Iran has sort of agreed to the terms. They're not going to make, I call it in a friendly way, nuclear dust. We're not going to be making any nuclear dust in Iran. And we've been strong. I want them to succeed. I want them to end up being a great country.
Since returning to office, Trump has revived his maximum pressure policy on Tehran, backing nuclear diplomacy but warning of military action if it fails. Iran currently enriches uranium to 60%, far above the 3.6% limit set in 2015 deal, but below the 90% needed for a nuclear warhead. Syed Afzarul Hassan for DD India.
And the first direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine since 2022 conflict ended on Friday after less than 2 hours in Turkey. Russian delegation expressed satisfaction with the talks, saying it was ready to keep talking to Kyiv. Russia and Ukraine also agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners of war from each side. European leaders also gathered in Albania to discuss the security concern over Ukraine, where President Zelensky demanded for an unconditional ceasefire in Russia-Ukraine conflict.
May 16, 2025 marked a major milestone in resolving Russia-Ukraine conflict. Officials from Russia and Ukraine sat face-to-face on Friday in Istanbul for their first direct talks in over 3 years, aimed at ending their war. Moscow expressed satisfaction with talks, saying it was ready to keep talking to Kiev.
What have we agreed on? First, in coming days, there will be a large-scale POW exchange, 1,000 people each. Secondly, the Ukrainian side has requested direct talks between the leaders of the states. We took this request into consideration. And thirdly, we agreed that each side will present its vision of possible future ceasefire and will put it on paper in details. After these projects are presented, we find it reasonable to continue our talks. It has also been negotiated.
However, the chasm between the two sides was quickly apparent as Ukrainian sources said that Russia's demands were detached from the reality and go far beyond anything that was previously discussed. While Moscow also said it wanted to address the root causes of the conflict and revive failed 2022 negotiations in which it made sweeping territorial and political demands of Ukraine. On the other hand, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was in Albania for the EPC summit. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, among others, too were present. Zelensky repeated his demand for unconditional ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. While French President Emmanuel Macron says Russia doesn't want a ceasefire in Ukraine, Macron also sought more pressure from Europe.
The last few hours have shown, in this regard, that Russia has no desire for a ceasefire. And if there is no increased pressure from Europeans and the Americans to achieve this result, it will not happen by itself.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz called the direct talks in between Russia and Ukraine a very small but a positive signal in the conflict.
The fact that they are meeting today, first time for 3.5 years, is a very small but first positive signal. We have to do more on that, on diplomatic efforts, but we have to be very clear on our military support for this country as well. There should be no doubt that we are willing to continue to give our support.
Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners of war from each side. Defense Minister of Ukraine said that if the exchange goes ahead, it would be the biggest prisoner swap in more than 3 years. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the leaders of Ukraine, France, Germany, Britain and Poland held a phone call with US President Donald Trump on Friday after talks between Russian and Ukrainian officials in Istanbul concluded. Now, the EU and the UK will be heading into a pivotal summit in London on Monday, aiming to finalize a landmark defence and security partnership while continuing to clash over fishing rights and food import checks. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will be hosting EU leaders, including Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, as part of a symbolic reset in post-Brexit relations. The defence pact, spurred by growing threats from Russia and concerns over US support under Donald Trump, could pave the way for the UK's involvement in EU missions and access to a $167 billion EU defence fund, that's Euro defence fund. However, negotiations remain tense over access to EU fishermen and a youth mobility scheme that Britain sees as a threat to its immigration controls. Officials expect the security agreement to be signed, but say many issues will be required to further move things forward. The summit will also include 2 additional documents on shared global goals and ongoing contentious topics. Now, Chad's former Prime Minister and opposition leader Success Masra has been abducted by security forces from his residence on Friday. However, according to the party's members, the reason of his abduction is still unknown. Masra served as Prime Minister of Chad from January to May 2024. A Thai construction tycoon, Premchai Kanasuta, and 14 others surrendered to police on Friday over a building collapse that killed nearly 100 workers during a powerful earthquake in March. The surrender comes after the partially built 30-story State Audit Office tower in Bangkok collapsed from a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake. Rescue teams recovered 92 bodies during a 6-week operation. Metropolitan Police said that Premchai and other suspects were accused of neglecting and breaching construction regulations. An American Lebanese man was sentenced to 25 years in prison on Friday for trying to kill novelist Salman Rushdie in a 2022 knife attack at the New York Cultural Center. 27-year-old Hadi Matar was convicted in February of attempted murder and assault for stabbing, which left Rushdie blind in one eye. Let's now also take a look at some other stories making news around the world. Swedish investigators said on Friday that they have found no evidence suggesting that the perpetrator behind the country's deadliest mass shooting had racist or extremist motivations. The attacker, identified by the police as Rickard Andersson, fatally shot 10 students and teachers at the campus Risbergska school in the city of Örebro in February. Hundreds of teachers marched to Mexico City on Teachers' Day to protest the 2007 controversial law that professionals claim hampers their working conditions. The teachers are demanding the repeal of the law that worsened their retirement conditions by increasing the legal requirement of age from 58 to 65. Hundreds of music fans descended on the Eurovision Song Contest venue in Switzerland on Thursday. Colorfully dressed fans arrived at St. Jakobshalle, the arena where Israel's Eurovision entry Yuval Raphael was scheduled to perform at the second semi-final. And still to come on DD India Newshour, we'll be talking with our expert guests about India's fight against terror and how that is going to go forward. Now, Indian Institute of Mass Communication is launching its PhD in Mass Communications and Journalism program. From the coming academic year, rules for the same have been notified today. Details of admission process will be announced in due course.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh raises serious concerns over Pakistan's push to rebuild its terror infrastructure, urges the International Monetary Fund to reconsider its aid to Pakistan. A UN report says India is a bright spot in the world economy as the global outlook remains subdued amid rising trade tensions. Russia and Ukrainian officials hold their first talks in over 3 years in Istanbul. Now, Akashteer is the core of Indian Army's air defence system. It is India's fully indigenous automated air defence control and reporting system that intercepted and neutralized every inbound projectile sent in by Pakistan. The system provides a common real-time air picture to all involved parties, enabling coordinated air defence operations. It's a system designed to automate detection, tracking and engagement of enemy aircraft, drones and missiles. It integrates various radar systems, sensors and communication technologies into a single operational framework. Akashteer gathers data from multiple sources, processes it and allows for automated real-time engagement decisions. Akashteer improves situational awareness and allows for precise, powerful action. Experts across the world are calling Akashteer a seismic shift in warfare strategy. With this system, India has entered the elite club of nations with fully integrated automated air defense command and control capability. If it doesn't just see faster, it decides faster and it strikes faster than anything fielded globally. Akashteer is not just a technology, it is India's answer to asymmetric warfare, hybrid threats and cross-border terrorism. Well, let me bring in now one of my guests. Ambassador J.S. Mukul is with us, former senior diplomat. We're expecting that we'll also be joined by Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, retired former Army commander. Let me start with you, Ambassador. What do you make of what the Defence Minister had to say today? Not just about saying the picture is not over yet. He also sort of urged the IMF to rescind that latest tranche that Pakistan has got to keep its economy going, because he said that's tantamount, literally he said that that's equivalent to sponsoring terrorism, to funding terror activities.
Good evening. No, I think it's very important that we have put forward in the IMF a strong and very potent arguments why the loan should not be given, or should, as the Honorable Defence Minister today said, should be reconsidered and rescinded. Now, the reasons for this are that first, Pakistan has become a chronic borrower. It has had 24 IMF loans since 1958, and just in the last few years, in 2019, I think it has availed of 4 programs from the IMF. And obviously, these are not having...
Sir, in Hindi, there's an expression. In Hindi, there's an expression called andha kuwa, and in English, it means a bottomless well.
Absolutely. I mean, this kind of a chronic borrower, or in perpetuity that you are in debt. So it's obviously not having, and that is why I think we have been pointing out that the track record of Pakistan is absolutely poor in this regard. And therefore, it is for the international community and the IMF board to reconsider that, as you rightly said, you can't be putting this into a bottomless pit kind of a thing, the andha kuwa that you pointed out. So that is the first, and I think a very potent argument on the IMF side. The second reason why we have been pointing this out is the military interference. Now, it's well known that in Pakistan you have a deep state, while ostensibly they have a civilian government, but it's the military which calls the shots, both in the politics and in economics. And here, particularly with regard to economics, there is a UN report of 2021 which clearly points out that the army is the biggest business conglomerate in the military, is the biggest business conglomerate in the country. Mm-hmm. Now, that obviously impacts on the civilian accountability, the transparency, and most importantly, the main purpose of the IMF loans, which is the structural reforms. So that has also not been possible because
doesn't the IMF realize what is going on? Why is it indulging Pakistan again and again? There is a line of speculation that it is all about nuclear blackmail of sorts, but is that the real reason, or is it something else?
I think it's just that, they have been indulging. The IMF, as we know, was crafted in one of the Bretton Woods institutions in the post-World War era. The Western countries have been dominating. It is being dominated by the Western countries. We have naturally...
It's the US which has the maximum votes.
Sorry?
It's the US which has the maximum votes, the largest say.
The US has 16.49% of the votes. It is not based on one country, one vote system. And that is something that India and others from the global south has been calling for. It is actually, it is the need of the hour. It is the demand of the global south. And therefore, it had become a priority of India's G20 presidency also. The reform of the multilateral organizations, including the Bretton Woods institutions like the IMF. And India, of course, has just 2.6% weight in the voting share, because the distribution is based on the country's economic size of the economy, and more importantly, I believe the contribution that it makes. So structurally, the IMF voting is tilted in favor of the developed or the rich countries. And that is one thing that we have been regularly demanding. There have been committee reports and recommendations on this, a committee chaired by N.K. Singh and Nari Summers has made clear recommendations in order to bring about a balance between the global south and the global north. But unfortunately, this requires political will, and that has not been possible. But coming back to the point of Pakistan's this, and the last and the third reason that I will point out is, of course, the one which is most topical and contemporary, that and the Honorable Defense Minister, I think, referred to it. Then he said that they need to reconsider this because there is a risk of funds being diverted to the terror infrastructure. Now, these are the things that have been pointed out. We will also, I'm sure, India will be taking this to the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, because that is the proper body which will look at which deals with anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terror. So that is the body, and we know that Pakistan had been on the grey list under close monitoring until 2022, and I'm sure in the context of what has happened, the dastardly attack in Pahalgam on 22nd of April, I'm sure India, along with the help of its others in the friendly countries, will be raising this in the FATF, because once Pakistan goes onto either the grey list or the blacklist of the FATF, then it becomes very difficult for it to access the IMF funds. So those are the three reasons. The one is, of course, the chronic, to summarize, the chronic borrower syndrome of Pakistan. The second is the military interference in terms of its economy. And third, of course, is this risk of funds being diverted for terrorism. In fact, India had pointed out in the meeting on the 9th when these IMF board met that this actually would have a reputational risk with regard to the IMF itself, because if found that later on funds are being diverted. But obviously the international institutions and particularly the multilateral institutions move at their own pace. So this will take time, but I'm sure we will be working both bilaterally with our friends as also through the multilateral fora that are available to bring this to the attention of the international community, and hopefully things will they will take cognizance of these issues.
Right. Now, the Defense Minister also spoke extensively about Operation Sindoor itself, where he not only said that this is just the trailer and the full movie, if it's required, we'll show to the entire world. He also said, and it's quite potent, this statement, that India's fight against terrorism is now part of its national defense doctrine, and that India will root out any sort of hybrid or proxy warfare. And he's expressed confidence that India will be able to complete this task because it's something that is the backing of the people, wholehearted backing of India's people. We've seen the Tiranga Yatra being taken out through different parts of the country as well after Operation Sindoor. Now, what do you make of how India has in this phase gone about taking on this task, and the intent it is also showing to follow through?
I think the new security doctrine or the new defense doctrine which the Honorable Defense Minister mentioned today really comes from the Honorable Prime Minister's speech, where he had made it very clear that India's new defense doctrine or security doctrine would have the three elements.
Yes.
One was that any terrorist act in future would be responded to. Second, that we would not stand for any nuclear, we would not accept any nuclear blackmail. And the third, that we would not make a distinction between the perpetrators of terrorism and their state-sponsored backers. So I think this constituted a new paradigm, a paradigm shift, if I may say, and a new security or defense doctrine. And I think the defense minister today was only echoing and reiterating that position, that that is, I mean, the point being that if further terrorist action abetted and supported from across the border were to take place, there would be a very strong response. And I think that message has gone through to, I'm sure, to Pakistan, but also to the larger international community. And of course, the Indian people, and that's where the Tiranga Yatra is also a further effort to take this to the people, to make it.
And so apart from spelling out this doctrine, what the Prime Minister also said was that not only will terror talks not happen at the same time, there will be no trade with terror being on, and of course when there is blood flowing, no water can flow either. And Pakistan does not seem to be listening at all, because we've had already, despite all that has happened after Operation Sindoor, its Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif offering talks well, not in a formal way, but in a public platform where India is concerned, and saying that it will have to have the K word and the K issue in it as well.
Well, these are traditional. This is a traditional thing of Pakistan, and we have made it very clear that there can be no talks and terror going at the same time.
Pakistan will continue to sound like a broken record.
Well, that they will, because also we should understand that they also have a domestic constituency sometimes to cater to. But I think the message, what is important is the messaging, and a very strong message has gone through. And I think this was again reiterated by the defense minister today when he was speaking at the Bhuj Air Force Station, that this should not be lost sight of. With regard to the Indus Water Treaty, again, that's a very strong message. A treaty that has been in force for many decades, since the 1950s, and it had survived the wars of 65, 71, Kargil, etc. But I think now it's been made clear that, as the Prime Minister put it very eloquently, the blood and water cannot flow together. But these are more in the nature of medium to long-term measures, because it's not that you can stop river waters flowing tomorrow. So these are more in the nature. But there are Indian projects. I have been reading that there are at least 5 different projects which India has identified, hydroelectric projects, run of the stream projects.
Run of the river or stream.
Yeah. So those have been identified, and those I think we will be moving ahead with. It will also help address the chronic shortage of power in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. It also will help in terms of climate change, because hydroelectric power is clean power, and of course it sends a very clear message to Pakistan again. So we'll have to wait and see how they respond. I mean, it's too close to what has happened from the 7th to the 10th. Now everybody is kind of, as you said, they are all speaking from the standard script. But I think, I'm sure, a deeper introspection would be taking place, and certainly we really hope that the message is taken in the spirit in which it has been sent, and that it's not just for the sake of speaking. These are clear. This is a very clear message, and a new security or doctrine, which some have alluded to as the Modi doctrine, which have been enunciated by the Honorable Prime Minister. And is being now.
Now, I wanted to ask you about something that may not be directly related to with what's happening, the kind of kinetic and non-kinetic actions India has taken as part of Operation Sindoor. But a major ice has been broken now with Dr. S. Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, speaking to the acting Foreign Minister of Afghanistan. Ice was actually broken in Jan when our Foreign Secretary spoke with him in Dubai, I believe. But now, although India has still not formally recognized the Taliban government which took over in August 2021, what do you make of this particular development in the context of what's been happening between India and Pakistan as well? Afghanistan has its own story, its own grievances with Pakistan too.
I think again it's a very important. This is a very important dialogue and a very important relationship. Afghanistan has always been very close to us in terms of the people-to-people contact. We always have made it clear that we are for the people. We had, of course, not just the Foreign Secretary had spoken, but we have also recommenced our development cooperation projects there. There is a lot of though formally there is no embassy, but there is a Indian team which is helping it in implementation of the development cooperation projects. Yes. And of course, in strategic terms, Pakistan has always tried to consider Afghanistan as its strategic depth. I think that concept is completely
unraveled.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely unraveled. There is no question of that. And in fact, the relationship Pakistan may have bloated when the Taliban regime took over.
But quickly, if I could ask you, now that this ice has been broken, where do you see the water resulting from the thaw flowing?
No, I think gradually the relations are on the mend after the new regime has taken over. I think there are understandings. We will. I think you will see a steady progress. That's the way I see it, steady progress in India-Afghan relations. Because in any case, the people-to-people relations have always been very close. There have been ups and downs with regard to regimes. But now I think even with the regime, as you said, the ice has been broken, more than the ice has been broken.
And what kind of implications could this have for Pakistan?
Well, as I said, Pakistan, which used to think Afghanistan as a strategic depth, now that concept, they can forget about it. And therefore, they need to worry about their own relations with Afghanistan, which I think going through a lot of stress at this present time. So that is, of course, for them to look at. But I think the fact that India and Afghanistan are developing a close relationship will also be something which the Pakistan authorities will need to factor in.
Right. So we let's leave it there for the moment and see how things move from here. I'm told that Lieutenant General Shukla has just joined us. Let me just get if we have him with us, let me just try and get a quick comment from him. So what do you make of what's happening in terms of what our Defence Minister said today and the kind of actions that India is still taking, although the guns have fallen silent, like I mentioned in the story that we ran before, on the top of the show, India is still gunning for Pakistan. General Shukla?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you just repeat the question?
Just wanted to ask you, India is still gunning for Pakistan, it seems, although as part of Operation Sindoor, the guns have fallen silent.
The guns have fallen silent. But can I just make one point before I answer your question? And that is, what has really surprised me is the manner in which we have, executed this military victory. It is quite unparalleled. And what we have really, India has discovered is the utility of force. And the manner in which we carried out, we leveraged the escalation ladder, the airstrikes, and the strength of our AD wall, that has left Pakistan naked, vulnerable, and exposed. So I don't see what options Asim Munir has. He had no options, therefore he sued for a ceasefire. So when you say we are gunning, at least in military terms, we have overwhelmed him. All he has is some very weak narratives to claim victory. But now, as you see, the international media, the wider strategic international community, all are emphasizing that it's an emphatic military victory. So, at least in military terms, we don't need to gun for him. He has been overwhelmed.
But he's still in place, and that is something that perhaps shouldn't continue for too long, because otherwise he might be up to mischief again.
Yeah, I mean, see, at least the thinking people in Pakistan would realize that there has been a major change in terms of statecraft. Terror as a low-cost option will not work. If he is to continue to aid and abet terror, he will have to meet India's military might. This schoolboy bluff, nuclear bluff, has also been called. So if I'm sitting in Pakistan, I would really wonder what my options are. At least in the short and medium term, this terror rampage under a nuclear cover, which was the central tenet of their statecraft, is no longer available.
Well, his option for now, sir, his option for now is to spend that IMF money as long as he keeps getting those tranches of money.
What do? See, much is being made of this IMF money, $1 billion. 3 businessmen from Bombay and Chennai will raise it in half a day. So what is this $1 billion going to do to Pakistan? They are in a severe mess. They really need to look at... It's a life support system. Sorry?
It's a life support system.
Yeah, life support. I mean, $1 billion is not something that will give them strategic ascendancy. Actually, for years, India has been punching below its strategic weight. We have rediscovered our weight. We have rediscovered the utility of force. And Pakistan has just turned out to be quite a charade in terms of strategic outlook. Its strategic outlook.
Right. Well, let's leave it there. We're completely out of time. Thank you for joining us, both of you, to talk about what might still be in store for Pakistan if it doesn't learn its lessons, and it's showing no signs at the moment of doing that, and it's being aided and abetted as well by certain parties, it seems, who perhaps do not really understand what they're doing. Thank you so much for joining us for the moment. Now, at a time when the global economy is facing what the United Nations calls a precarious moment, India has emerged as a rare bright spot. The mid-year update of the UN report titled World Economic Situation and Prospects projects India's growth at 6.3% in the current fiscal year, the highest among large economies. This momentum is expected to continue into 2026, with growth estimated at 6.4%. In contrast, the global outlook remains subdued amid rising trade tensions, policy uncertainty, and a decline in cross-border investments. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the country. Now, India's Minister for Development of North-Eastern Region, Jyotiraditya Scindia, arrived in Guwahati for the purpose of visiting Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. And while speaking to the media, he said that the Central Cabinet has approved the construction of a 186-kilometer expressway from Shillong to Silchar. Delhi and the National Capital Region is likely to see a volatile weather pattern over the next 4 days, as the Indian Meteorological Department forecast a mix of intense heat, thunderstorms and dust-raising winds. The Indian Institute of Mass Communication is set to launch its PhD in Mass Communication and Journalism program from the coming academic year. Rules for the same have been notified. Details of admission process will be announced in due course. Legendary Indian filmmaker Gautam Ghosh is making waves at the Cannes Film Festival with his latest Indo-Italian film, Parikrama, The Journey. The film delves into urgent global issues, including ecological threats, environmental degradation, and the enduring human struggle for survival. In an exclusive conversation, DD India's Jaya Sinha spoke to Gautam Ghosh about the overwhelming response and houseful screening of his film at the festival market.
We are at the Cannes Film Market. A lot of films are screened here. We are joined by National Award-winning filmmaker Gautam Ghosh. So, welcome to DD India. Your film was screened at the film market today, and I was told that it is houseful. How was your experience at the Cannes Film Festival?
Well, when I've been in Cannes several times since 1982, a long time. Well, every time I come here, I find something new. But one thing is very interesting about Cannes, that, it's a unique combination of art and commerce. My screening was full today, and CII had taken initiative So was my Italian producer. This is the first official Indo-Italian production, titled co-production, titled Parikrama.
So you have literally seen the festival grow, and also the presence of Indian films and Indian filmmakers at the Cannes.
Absolutely. I think, when I started coming to Cannes, mostly parallel filmmakers were known in Cannes. They didn't know anything about Bollywood. But later on, they started knowing that there's a huge industry in Bollywood. And of course, now they know our South Indian industry. And now the Indian films are known everywhere, thanks to the initiative of different apex body and the government.
Here is Thailand Pavilion, and here is a special pavilion for India. We can see a little India over here.
Exactly. This pavilion is for India. You see, little India, the Northeast. Northeast is such a beautiful place. Both, its flora, fauna, its culture, diverse culture. And, they're showcasing everything, in CII platform and even in Indian platform where you have a stall of NFDC. So I'm very excited, I'm coming to Cannes after quite a long time.
So definitely it's wonderful to be in Cannes. Indian cinema, Indian actors, Indian films are shining at the Cannes Film Festival. And here at the pavilion where we can see what India is offering the world, the mantra is, come, create in Bharat for the world. With camera person Sumit reporting for DD India, this is Jaya Sinha from Cannes.
And now time to get you some sporting updates as well. Well, Lionel Messi is set to return to Argentina's squad for their World Cup qualifiers against Chile and Colombia. The 37-year-old missed the doubleheader in March because of an adductor injury. But his team still qualified for next year's tournament by beating Uruguay and Brazil. Messi-led Argentina will visit struggling Chile on the 5th of June and then will host 6th place Colombia in Buenos Aires on the 10th. Messi will then return to the United States to play in the opening match of the FIFA Club World Cup, where Inter Miami hosts AI Ali on the 14th of June. Now, Iraqis have flocked to the Souk Al-Ghazal, which is the country's largest pet market. The market is known for its diverse selection of animals, including exotic birds, snakes, ornamental fish, and much more. It also offers a unique opportunity for families to learn about different animal species and even purchase pets. The name of the market, Al-Ghazal, is a reference to the wool and cotton market that originated in the Ottoman era. Vendors used to sell woolen and cotton products in past centuries, but over time, people gradually shifted to selling different kinds of animals. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Newshour. You can let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code, which is there on the screen, and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Newshour.